The time is 16 minutes past 6, time for the business news, and, well, there's no prizes for knowing how it begins today. Here's Dominic Morley.
Yes, thanks. Budget reaction, of course. Perhaps it wasn't the most eventful of budgets, but what there was quite controversial. The Conservative Chancellor announcing an increase in national insurance contributions for around 2.5 million self-employed people. And something that will really hit his traditional supporters, an increase in the tax on dividend payments from companies, which, of course, is how many small business owners normally pay themselves. He did at least have some help for those hit by the sudden increases in business rates. This is what Philip Hammond said.
Taken together, Mr Deputy Speaker, this is a further £435 million cut in business rates, targeted at those small businesses facing the biggest increases, protecting our pubs and giving local authorities the resource to respond flexibly to local circumstances.
Well, I have a star-studded panel with me to discuss all that flows from the budget. My guest is Stephen Kelly, the Chief Executive of the FTSE 100 technology company Sage. Alongside him, Debbie Warwick, a partner and head of ratings at the property advisory firm Daniel Watney. Margaret Doyle, who's a partner at the Big Four accountancy firm Deloitte. And to look at the big picture on the public finances, Andrew Senton, Senior Economic Advisor at PwC. Stephen, starting with you, the main takeaway in the papers this morning from that budget has been that what they called an attack on the self-employed, an attack on entrepreneurs. Your company deals with those people. You sell them accounting software. Did you take that away from it?
Yeah, I think the Chancellor says he's confounded the experts in terms of the strength and the resilience of the economy, and that's largely down to the success of the job creation by the small and medium businesses. They've created 2/3 of the jobs. And fundamentally, I think they'll wake up this morning feeling badly let down because, as you rightly say, they've had a triple whammy of tax increase on national insurance, on dividend income, and business rates, which is ultimately completely absurd tax, a Shakespearean tax in the digital age. It's madness.
Just to explain that dividend tax, so typically small business owners will pay themselves dividends from their company. They can get £5,000 tax-free at the minute, and it's gone down to £2,000. Do you think that will change their attitude to risk, their attitude to employment?
Yeah, I do, and particularly the start-up entrepreneurs. I think that's been a major incentive. This is probably one of the best countries in the world over the last 6 or 7 years to start a business, a tremendous environment to encourage businesses. And we've seen now it's 4.6 million businesses across the UK, but the spread, 600,000 new businesses created last year. And I do think that will be a barrier to make them think, do I want to take the risk? Do I want to worry about, cash flow? Do I want to worry about all the things associated with, working 70 hours a week, or do I want a safe option of going to work for someone else? And I think, again, it comes back to the job creation agenda that's powered the economy and provided resilience post the Brexit vote is largely down to these people, and I'm sure they'll feel a bit disappointed this morning.
Debbie, let's move on to you and business rates. This has been your hobby horse for quite a long time. A £435 million package. Who are the benefits? You could just break that down. Who are the beneficiaries from that, please?
Yeah, a lot of this isn't new money. Some of it was earmarked before. So the main things we saw in the budget yesterday were help for those losing small business rate relief on the 1st of April. So they're coming out of something which generally protected them from paying very much business rates before. That was something that was introduced by the Welsh Government before, and so it's not surprising that England have picked that up to help those facing really large increases there. Other than that, we've got £1,000 for most of the pubs in England off their rate bill this year, which I'm sure will be a help, but not necessarily a great help to all of those pubs. And then finally, the £300 million is in the discretionary relief fund, which is going to local authorities to help hardship cases over the next 4 years.
How will that work? How will the local authorities referee between all the small businesses who want some help with their business rates?
I think that's a really interesting question. I think they don't know. I think local authorities might not be very pleased at having to do this. It's another overhead for them, another challenge for them without any extra income particularly.
The other big irritation I was with some small business owners yesterday is that many of them, this is in Crewe where we did a broadcast yesterday, many of them haven't seen their rate bills yet. They don't know what the increase is going to be, even though they'll have to pay it in just a few weeks' time.
That's very true. I heard your broadcast yesterday, and I was out on the road seeing ratepayers too, and they haven't seen their rate bills. I think for many people who think they're going to get a reduction this year, they're going to have a bit of a shock, because they really won't. Because of the system of transitional relief to help large increases and decreases in rates bills, a lot of those people expecting decreases really will not see them, or very much of them, over the next few years.
And then how does this budget overlay, this package of relief, work on top of that?
Well, nobody really knows. We've yet to see the small print. It's quite complicated. I had another phone in yesterday from a pub who's coming out of small business rate relief, supposed to have £1,000 off. Was asking, well, what's my rate bill actually going to be? We don't know.
Margaret, coming to you, an attack on small businesses, perhaps, I mean, that's perhaps an overly political reading of it. What were the other options he had in looking at the public finances and raising taxation?
Well, really, he didn't have a lot of options because, as the Chancellor himself made it clear, we are still a country that has a budget deficit, and in fact, it looks like it'll be a 3-parliament challenge to actually close that deficit. So not a lot of options. I mean, one thing that the previous Chancellor did look at very closely, and indeed did make some changes to, was pensions tax relief. We know that he withdrew a lot of the reliefs for the better off, taper relief for the annual allowance, and then bringing down the limit on the overall pot that can be built up over a lifetime. However, he did resist the temptation to do anything to higher rate pension tax relief.
Because a lot of people had thought that was an obvious next step, wasn't it?
Well, it looked like that was what was going to happen, not least because we've seen substantial increases in the amount that can be put into an ISA, an individual savings account. It's now going up to £20,000. So it looked like there was a shift, an encouragement to go from pensions towards the annual ISA. However, it would have been fiendishly complicated. It wasn't something that the industry welcomed. It would have changed, frankly, how people are employed and really the sort of overall package of remuneration. So in the end, that wasn't done. But that is something that we have seen certain think tanks lobby for.
The other tantalising thing he mentioned in passing was a review of how you re-tax the digital economy. Now, this is a very slippery fish, isn't it? What do you think he might actually do?
Well, this is the $6 billion question. We do know that there is a global initiative under the G7. It goes by the acronym BEPS, Base Erosion and Profit Shifting. So we know that there is an overall global attempt to basically make sure that big companies pay the correct amount of tax. It's a very slippery problem, not least because a lot of the digital economy services appear to be free. In other words, the consumer, whether it's we search online, or, we know that there are a lot of services, social media, for which we do not appear to pay. So we don't hand over any cash. So one of the difficulties of that is that it makes it difficult to tax those transactions. But yes, it does appear that the Chancellor is going to look at this. This is not going to be something where there's an overnight fix.
Coming out of the big picture on the public finances, Andrew, what more do we know about the state of the public finances today that we didn't really know yesterday?
Well, I think the budget confirmed what we were expecting, which is that there's been a better picture coming in from tax receipts, and the Chancellor had extra money. He chose not to do anything with it. He chose not really to increase spending very much. He chose not to make big giveaways to the personal sector or to businesses. And I think the reason for that is threefold. One is obviously concerns about what might happen with Brexit, so he wants to keep his powder dry for that reason. He's got an autumn budget later this year, so he may want to do more then. And then, of course, the election is coming up in 2020. It's quite a way away. So public finances are going to improve over that period, and maybe that's the time when he's going to be thinking about tax reductions.
Well, when do we think we'll have a budget surplus now? Because this is a moving target for chancellors, isn't it?
Well, he doesn't actually have to have a budget surplus to have a sustainable public finance position. He's getting the deficit down to about £20 billion. That's about 1% of GDP. It started off at about 10% of GDP. So he's getting it into the zone where public finances are sustainable. He's dangling the carrot out that in the next Parliament we'll move into surplus. But whether we do or not, I think still remains to be seen.
Well, we look forward to the second budget of the year later in the year. Thank you very much to my guests, Stephen Kelly of Sage, Debbie Warwick of Daniel Watney, Margaret Doyle of Deloitte, and Andrew Sentrance, of the Senior Economic Advisor at PwC. Well, a big change in the markets yesterday.